Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to flex those mental muscles today.
Always up for a good brain workout.
We're diving deep into Amy Morin's 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. It's packed with insights
Yeah?
and practical tips, not just like feel-good stuff, but
Huh.
stuff you can actually use. Have you ever noticed that feeling when things get tough, you just want to give up? Or maybe you kind of secretly dread quiet time, like you should be doing something more productive?
All the time.
We're going to unpack that today
Yeah.
and figure out what to do about it.
Those are some really, really common struggles. And, they tie into
Yeah.
some of the core concepts that Morin explores in the book.
Yeah.
Overcoming that fear of failure.
Yeah.
And then also harnessing the power of being alone.
Right.
So many people fall into that trap of thinking that if they fail, it's a character flaw, or that being alone means they're lonely.
Mm-hmm.
But what if those were actually opportunities?
Yeah. Let's bust those myths. Morin, she starts off with a woman named Susan. Susan had like this seemingly perfect life, but she still felt unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And it turned out she had abandoned her dream of teaching after she struggled in college.
Oh.
And that pattern of giving up whenever things got hard, that just became like her norm.
It's amazing how, how often we let fear kind of make decisions for us, right? The fear of looking foolish, disappointing other people, or maybe just, not being good enough.
Yeah.
And so rather than actually facing that fear,
Yeah.
we just avoid the challenge altogether. But here's the thing. Every time we give up, we just keep reinforcing that idea that failure is something to be ashamed of.
Right.
Instead of an opportunity to learn and grow.
It's funny, I was just reading about Dr. Seuss the other day.
Okay.
And his first book, it was rejected like over 20 times before it was finally published.
Wow.
Can you imagine if he had given up after the first or even the 10th rejection? We might not have the Cat in the Hat.
Yep.
So how do we shift that perspective from, I failed to, okay, what can I learn?
So one really powerful way is to focus on the effort and not just the outcome. There's research that shows that when we praise kids for their hard work and their strategies, rather than just their intelligence, they're actually more likely to embrace challenges and learn from their mistakes.
Interesting.
And that actually applies to adults too,
Oh, okay.
Think about Thomas Edison. He didn't look at his thousands of attempts to create the light bulb as failures.
Wow.
He looked at them as steps in the process. Each one taught him something that didn't work, and it brought him closer to the solution.
So true. It completely changes how we think about setbacks. Instead of like a reflection of our worth, it's a stepping stone to being better.
Exactly.
And I think that kind of goes with what they call a growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
The idea that you can actually develop your abilities
Yeah.
with dedication and hard work.
Exactly. And psychologist Carol Dweck, she studied mindsets a lot. And what she found was that people with a growth mindset, they are more resilient, they're more persistent,
Wow.
and they're ultimately more successful because they see challenges as opportunities to grow, not as threats. And the cool thing is that research shows that even just praising effort can change
Wow.
the way our brains work. It promotes more plasticity and adaptability.
So it's not just like positive thinking. There's science behind this.
Totally, yeah.
It's like we're rewiring our brains to be more resilient. Okay, so how do we actually use this? It's easy to say embrace failure, but that's harder to actually do.
Absolutely. And Maureen, she gives us some really practical steps. First, she says to look at your beliefs about failure. What did you learn growing up?
Okay.
Do you see it as a weakness or is it an opportunity? And once you figure that out, you can challenge those beliefs. And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Yeah.
We're usually our own worst critics, but what if we treated ourselves the same way we'd treat a friend?
That's so true. That inner voice can be brutal.
Yeah.
So instead of beating ourselves up, we can just acknowledge those mistakes, learn, and move on.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, I messed up, but I'm still capable, I'm still worthy, and I can try again.
Exactly. And remember, this is a process. It's not a one-time fix. Building up mental strength takes time. It takes effort and a willingness to challenge those old beliefs that might be holding you back.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, our beliefs about failure and solitude are connected.
Yeah.
Maureen talks about Vanessa, this high-achieving realtor who was always on. Like, she thought that if she was alone, she was wasting time.
Okay.
She couldn't even turn her brain off at night.
Oh, wow.
Constant overload, you know.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially nowadays where everyone's always connected. There's so much pressure to always be productive, to be busy, to be seen. It's almost like we're afraid to disconnect.
I know. It's like we're all running on a treadmill. We're going through the motions, but we're not getting anywhere.
Right.
And, you know, all that stimulation can actually stop us from dealing with other issues.
Interesting.
Morin even talks about this woman, Alicia.
Okay.
She developed transient global amnesia,
What's that?
basically temporary memory loss.
Wow.
But get this, it was triggered by stress
Really?
because she never slowed down.
That's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
So it sounds like our brains need time to rest, just like our bodies do.
Totally.
But there's also this stigma about solitude, right? Like being alone means you're lonely.
Right.
So how does Moran address that?
Well, she says that this fear of solitude is actually pretty new.
Yeah.
Historically, lots of cultures and religions, they valued being alone.
Interesting.
You know, like monks seeking enlightenment, artists finding inspiration in nature. Somewhere along the way, we started thinking that being alone made you a loser.
It's like we always need validation from other people, likes, shares.
Yeah.
If we're not connected, do we even exist? But what are we missing out on by avoiding being alone?
Right.
Is there any, like, proof that being alone is actually good for you?
Oh, there's tons of research that shows moderate solitude is beneficial
Really?
for both adults and kids.
Okay.
You can boost your creativity, make you more empathetic, and even help you be more productive.
Wow.
And it's important to, you know, separate solitude from loneliness.
Yeah.
Loneliness is about the lack of connection, but solitude is choosing to be alone with your thoughts.
Right. Creating space to think.
Yeah, to reflect.
Without distractions.
Exactly. Morin says you can even schedule a date with yourself.
I love that.
It doesn't have to be anything big, just some quality time to connect with yourself.
Okay.
It could be reading, music, a bath, being in nature. Just disconnect and tune in.
That makes sense. What about journaling?
That's another great tool Morin recommends.
Yeah. Okay.
It's proven to help you process your emotions, reduce stress,
Wow.
and gain more clarity. It's like having a conversation with yourself.
Right.
But on paper, no judgment, no interruptions. This whole conversation reminds me of Dan Harris's book, 10% Happier.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about, you know, going from a panic attack on live TV
I remember that.
to becoming like this huge advocate for meditation.
Wow.
It shows how powerful even a few minutes of quiet time can be.
That's amazing. But Marin's book points out that mental strength is more than just those things.
Yeah.
There's also challenging those ingrained beliefs we have
Right.
that might be holding us back.
One belief that can really mess us up is thinking that we're owed something.
Oh, interesting.
You know, that sense of entitlement. It can actually stop us from seeing our own flaws and from learning
Yeah.
and from being grateful for what we have.
It's like we're so busy comparing ourselves to others
Yeah.
and chasing validation that we lose track of what really matters.
Right.
Marin talks about Lucas, this recent MBA grad,
Yeah.
starts this big job
Okay.
and immediately rubs everyone the wrong way.
What happened?
He's like constantly giving advice, thinking he's, a gift to the company,
No.
and expects a promotion right away.
Classic example of how entitlement can sabotage us.
Yeah.
He's so focused on what he thinks he deserves that he doesn't see his own problems or how much he could learn from other people.
Right.
And that can lead to bitterness, you know, when things don't work out how you thought they would.
So how do we get out of that entitlement trap? I guess the first step is realizing when we're doing it.
Yeah.
Those I deserve this or why don't I have that moment?
Right.
But what then? How do we change that mindset?
Morin has a few suggestions. First, become more self-aware. Are you always comparing yourself to others?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you deserve special treatment? Once you see those things, you can start to challenge them.
Okay.
A great way to do that is to focus less on taking and more on giving.
Give back.
Yeah. When we concentrate on what we can contribute to the world, we feel more fulfilled.
Yeah.
And less entitled.
Exactly.
This reminds me of Sarah's story in the book. She had a brain tumor in her 20s.
Oh, wow.
But instead of feeling sorry for herself,
Yeah.
she spent her time helping other cancer patients.
Amazing.
It's so inspiring how she took this awful situation
Yeah.
and made something good out of it.
That's what it's all about.
It makes you think twice about complaining about all the little stuff.
Right.
But there's another thing about mental strength I think is really relevant now.
What's that?
Delaying gratification.
Oh, yeah.
We're so used to instant results. We want what we want, and we want it now.
I know. It's hard to be patient.
It makes it hard to stick with things.
It really does. We live in a world of instant Everything. Downloads, deliveries, stimulation.
Yeah.
But, real growth in any area of your life takes time and effort.
We've forgotten how to, enjoy the process
Yeah.
of working towards something meaningful. And Marin talks about Marcy.
Hmm.
She wasn't happy with her life, but she didn't know why.
And it turns out she was giving up on things too fast. Hobbies, self-improvement, even her marriage.
Oh, wow.
She wanted results right away, and if they didn't happen,
Yeah.
she'd quit.
That impatience can really stop us from reaching our goals. It makes us take shortcuts, make bad decisions, and we miss out on that feeling of making progress over time.
Right. It's like you can't run a marathon
Exactly.
without training for it.
It's the same with mental strength.
Okay.
It takes work, patience, and knowing there will be ups and downs.
I like that. But how do we learn to be patient
Right.
when everything is so instant now?
Morin says to start with realistic expectations.
Okay.
So instead of trying to reach this big goal by a certain time,
Yeah.
break it down into smaller steps.
Okay.
Celebrate those wins along the way.
Right.
And remember that progress isn't always a straight line.
It's like climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
You don't just leap to the top.
You have to take it one step at a time.
There are tough parts, times you need to rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep going, you'll get there.
And it's probably more rewarding that way.
Definitely. Mental strength is about being able to handle those challenges
Yeah.
and come out stronger.
But it's not just about, pushing through, right?
It's also about knowing yourself
Yeah.
and controlling your emotions.
So we've talked about failure, solitude, entitlement, patience.
Right.
But it sounds like there's more to it.
Morin talks about self-coaching. It's about taking charge of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions,
Okay.
and making choices that fit with your values and goals.
So, being honest with yourself.
Exactly. You're not ignoring your flaws. You're figuring out how to improve.
And a big part of that is managing our emotions, right?
Absolutely. We all have bad days. But mentally strong people don't let those emotions take over. They recognize them, deal with them, and move on.
It's like we're in control,
Yes, and mindfulness helps with that.
being present.
Yeah, noticing your thoughts and feelings.
Without judgment.
Exactly. It gives you space to choose how you react to things.
We're not just reacting automatically.
And another part of self-coaching is challenging your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
All those negative thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed,
It's easy to get stuck in those.
they can really hold you back if you let them.
So we have to, recognize them and question them.
Yeah, and replace them with positive, realistic ones.
Be our own cheerleader.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. It's okay to ask for help from a therapist, a mentor, a friend.
Sometimes we forget that.
It's okay to not have all the answers.
And actually, helping others can make us mentally stronger, too.
It's true.
Morin tells the story about Lawrence Lemieux. He was an Olympic sailor.
Okay.
He was about to win a medal, but he saw another sailor who was hurt.
What did you do?
He stopped his race to rescue them,
Wow.
even though it meant he wouldn't win.
That's amazing.
It shows that real strength isn't about winning no matter what.
It's about doing the right thing. So, to wrap up our deep dive into Morin's book, what are the key things for our listeners to remember?
Mental strength isn't something you're born with.
Okay.
It's something you can learn and practice.
Like a skill.
Exactly. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to grow, learning from mistakes, and being kind to yourself.
We can choose how we respond to things.
Yeah.
We can change those negative thoughts.
And create a better life for ourselves.
As Morin says, it's about having an unwavering sense of self-worth
Love that.
so you can face anything.
So that wraps up our deep dive today,
We hope this got you thinking.
and maybe even inspired you to work on your own mental strength.
It's a journey, not a race.
Be patient, celebrate your wins.
And never forget how powerful your mind is.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep.